Borderlands 4 is a great game, but technical issues are holding it back. Early reviews praise Borderlands 4 for its new direction in storytelling, a revamp of its world design, an evolved RPG system, and a much needed reset from the over-the-top themes of Borderlands past. While I do believe that Borderlands 4 is a great game, I can't ignore the issues that happened throughout my time with it. But the real question is, how bad are these problems, and should you wait to buy a potential Game of the Year? Borderlands 4 is a soft reboot for the series. No longer are we on Pandora or filled with 2010s hipster humor. But the game is a direct sequel to Borderlands 3, making Borderlands 4 comparable to Sony's Norse mythology God of War series. On the planet Kairos, our new Vault Hunters find themselves enslaved by the Timekeeper, who has implanted mind-controlling bolts into every citizen. You escape with RJ, an up-and-coming Vault Hunter, but only one of you makes it out alive. Claptrap finds and recruits you into the Crimson Resistance, and it's up to you to team up with the people of Kairos to stop the Timekeeper and his order. Each faction that you work with has their own issues that you need to solve, and thankfully Borderlands 4 solves these issues in only a few missions. The biggest change has to be the tone of Borderlands 4. Many people have mistakenly reported that Borderlands has returned to the style of Borderlands 1, but this is a gross misunderstanding of what that game was. No other game in the series is this dark. From the main missions to the side missions, most of the stories here are touching, well-written adventures with a sprinkle of silly ones here or there.
Was that voice you?
Does my eloquence surprise you, human? I wonder what other truths you have missed due to the comfort of assumption.
Borderlands 4's serious take on writing has to be the biggest improvement for the franchise. In the past, I would just grab as many missions as possible for the XP and ignore the nonsensical dialogue. You can do the same thing here, but I urge you, no, I implore you to actually pay attention this time around. The writers did an excellent job at creating scenarios around sensitive subject matters like self-doubt, grief, greed, friendship, and romance.
The closer we get, the more I feel uncertain. Of course, this is what I want. It's everything I was made for. But there is a sense of comfort in not knowing. Once I have the answer, there's no going back.
The writing is so good, I can actually say that the missions in Borderlands are more comparable to the well-written stories found in other RPGs like Cyberpunk, The Witcher, and Fallout. Don't worry, if you enjoy more lighthearted moments, not only are they still here, but they benefit greatly by them being more tamed and actually being funny.
What? My guy on the inside should have left it open for you. Check around. Must be some way to crack the door.
Got a dead guy in the gears.
Ah, that's my guy on the inside. What's the word? Husband. Well, clear the gears and pretend to feel bad about it.
You don't seem very upset your husband died.
We're curing world hunger here, Vault Hunter. You want to make an omelet, you've got to be okay with your husband getting crushed in big-ass gears.
Why be with him if you didn't even like him?
We were married for the insurance. Calm down.
You know, you probably should keep that to yourself. Never know who's listening.
After clocking in more than 60 hours, I haven't ran into any bad or boring stories. Rather be the main story or a side mission, they were all either pulling at my heartstrings or made me chuckle. Something I can't even give to most people's favorite game in the series, Borderlands 2. Borderlands 4 has matured into a serious game full of heavy themes while still keeping a smile on its face. An overall improvement, if you ask me.
Before more come, you need to assault his fortress directly. Send everything you've got at him.
Everyone. The people, Zadra.
not tools. But that's all the Order thinks of us, huh? And you were with them for a long time.
The story isn't the only thing that's matured in Borderlands 4. New is the true open world of Kairos. The past games had big zones blocked by loading screens. Now that Borderlands has entered into the open world genre, it's clear that they took some ideas from other games while not losing its identity. Borderlands 4 is very similar to Far Cry. You have a big map sectioned off by different factions, overruled by a boss. Each part of the map is filled with activities like capturing safe houses, destroying propaganda speakers, and finding vault keys. But unlike other games with this formula, Borderlands 4 is designed where these open world missions are truly optional. You get enough XP by fighting off what feels like an endless barrage of bad guys. So if you want to focus on the plot without being distracted by annoying icons, you can. Just make sure you turn off this setting on your compass. Thank me later. The open world and missions play well together thanks to the break from combat with minor puzzle solving, exploration, and platforming. Borderlands 4 has a Doom Eternal inspired movement system where you can dash, climb walls, slide, glide, and you have a cool grappling hook. I thought these new mechanics would have been a gimmick, but I was always using my grapple to either climb something or pull an item to me. There are bad guys that ask you to grapple parts of them to deal damage, and fights can get so chaotic that dashing is the perfect way to get out of dodge. There is a synergy here that wasn't in the previous games. There are side missions that ask you to bring an item back to your safe house. You can only bring them back on foot, and if you haven't unlocked the closest safe house to you, you're in for a long journey. I mention this because it's a great example of how one system feeds into another, and even the new movement system shines here. You have to throw the item and retrieve it in most cases, which turns a simple fetch quest into an organic puzzle that is fun to solve for yourself. Combat is as good as it always was, but this too has a few improvements and some things that may need some reworking. There are less guns in Borderlands 4, which sounds crazy as having a trillion guns is kind of Borderlands shtick. What's actually happening here is this. There are less base guns, but they make up for it for having more variations of each base gun. Look at the last word of this gun. That's the base, and the adjectives describe how the gun is different from its base form. Then you have weapon parts. Each gun has a manufacturer, and each part is made by the same manufacturer or a different one, which can completely change how the gun works. The parts are random, and depending on the weapon tier, from common to legendary, it will determine how many parts your gun has. Then you have an enhancement slot, which buffs any item with parts from a particular manufacturer. This is a game changer, as not only am I building my Vault Hunter the way I want with their action skills, but now I'm going after the right guns with the right parts to maximize my damage. All of this sounds confusing, but thankfully, Borderlands 4 doesn't drop all of these systems on you at once. Early game will be like any other Borderlands game, where you're focusing on understanding your unique character's abilities. Around the midpoint is where you get into weapon parts and optimization. The game does a great job of explaining its systems while leaving room for the player to uncover build combinations on their own. Borderlands has always been criticized for having spongy enemies that take too long to die. Now, I personally never felt that way until now. If you come prepared and play to your character's strengths, you will run through most bad guys, but Borderlands 4 seems to throw endless amounts of enemies at you. You can't go 2 minutes without the game spawning in more threats. It fits with the story as you are at war, but damn, can I get a moment to breathe? Now, this is a complaint, but as you get more powerful, fighting off an army that can easily kill you if you are careless by yourself is an amazing power trip. So this is a love-hate situation for me. Another issue is with the enemy variety. It gets better as you play, but so many missions have you fighting off the order that I was getting a bit bored. See, each faction of bad guys have a set of different foes in them. Each one also has a certain health bar, and each element in the game is strong against a certain health type. Most of the order is weak to electric and corrosive guns, which means I'm using the same guns over and over, which is kind of boring. Other factions actually have a bigger variety of foes in them, so every other group allows for better experimentation, unlike the Order. I understand why they're so limited, as most of the Order are simps and robotic bad guys always are weak to these elements in Borderlands games. But as you progress through the game, they throw random buffs on every bad guy in the game, like Vampiric, which sucks the health from nearby players, or Invincibility. And some of them give the Order different health bars and weaknesses. Once these versions spawned in, my issue was resolved, but it took a bit too long for my taste. The boss fights in Borderlands 4 have also gotten an upgrade. There are world bosses that randomly spawn, and a few that are hidden in caves. These feel like the bosses of old, which were very simple in their movement patterns and AI. Kinda reminds me of Elden Ring in its many repurposed grunts as bosses. The main villains, however, put all your skills to the test. It's no longer just about damage output. You have to learn their moves and dodge, like a boss that you will find in a hack and slash game. I really love the boss fights in Borderlands 4, with only one being mediocre. If you know anything about Borderlands, you know that the best part of the game is actually its endgame. Borderlands 4 no longer has a true Vault Hunter mode where you restart the game over. Now you keep playing to finish up any leftover missions, complete harder versions of previous missions, get better loot, and the overall enemy pool is tougher and more dangerous. If you want to start over, you can make a new character from level 1, or you can actually jump into the endgame with a brand new character starting at level 30. There are new RPG and gameplay mechanics that unlock after you beat the game, and if you love RPGs and build optimization, your mind will go crazy with all the extra gameplay features only available for people who've beaten the game. This is hands down the best gameplay system in any Borderlands game. Borderlands 3 nailed the feel of guns, but overdid it with easy legendary drops, which undermined the RPG system. Borderlands 4 restores order to the balance between shooter and RPG. And they solved the issue that most looter games have, with certain rarity tiers just becoming obsolete. But that's no longer the case in Borderlands 4 thanks to the part system and number balancing that they added to the game. And my favorite new addition to Borderlands 4, and this should be a feature in every looter game, there needs to be an automatic junk button. When I saw that you can automatically just look at an item and add it to your junk to be sold later, I thought this was genius. I don't know if Gearbox was the first to come up with this, but this is the first game I've ever had with this in it. Every looter game needs this. This needs to become a requirement, a standard. Borderlands 4 may have overdone it a bit with the amount of enemies that they spawn in, but that's a small issue compared to the greater good of the new mechanics. The new open world system is great and it adds exploration to Borderlands, which the game's always kind of had, but now it really feels like a game to explore and look around in. And with the new compass system, that needs some working too. Too many icons on the screen, but you could turn most of them off. But that was a good idea as well, as it doesn't tell the player exactly where you need to go, which feeds into the exploration. Platforming and the new movement system is also a great addition. Admittedly, some parts of the movement system don't work that well. Grappling things towards you or grappling enemies that need to be grappled to do damage works fine, but when you want to swing onto something or swing mid-combat, it doesn't work or seem as cool as when you try to do it while fighting. Dodging left and right and backwards work really well, and it's something that you will need to do but might forget you can do until you fight a certain boss. The only issue is that you can't really dodge forward, as that makes you crouch unless you jump in air first. These are little minor issues that they need to iron out, but what isn't a minor issue are the bugs crawling all over this great game. You only get one first impression, and Borderlands 4 opening up with a press any button to start prompt that actually doesn't work because you have to flick the analog stick should tell you the levels of bugginess this game can have. The game crashed once when I switched between performance and quality mode. I had a few progression bugs where the NPCs didn't move into place or behave as they should, and a few times where an interaction prompt just wouldn't trigger, soft locking the mission. The most talked about bug has to be the frame rate drops, assumed to be a memory leak. I'm playing on base PS5, and I also had this issue, but only once. Not only is the frame rate down to 30 or lower, But Echo 4 doesn't hack the speaker like he should in this side mission. Returning to the main menu without shutting the game down is often the solution to all the problems in this game. Aside from this one item, I still can't collect. Going from an interior to the outside world would cause these weird graphical bugs that are hard to see past a quick flash of it. And the worst bug to me is not even the frame rate drops, it's actually in the weapons menu. As you get more guns and upgrade your inventory space, the number of guns you can accumulate increases. But for whatever reason, this breaks the marker for the junk button. So the junk button bugs out and will mark the wrong gun, which can be bad if you end up not realizing that and selling something important. All of this is unacceptable. Although I love the Borderlands series, I will not excuse these problems because I know other players need to know exactly what they're buying. As for how bad these issues are, well, this is where it gets subjective. Every game has bugs, and if we're being honest, people have made excuses for games they really like when they have technical issues. For me, I don't think the bugs I experienced were so bad or frequent enough, outside the jump button bug, to warn people not to buy at all. I wouldn't even say wait for a sale because glitches aside, this is a game I would say is worth $70. But I'm not against anyone saving a few bucks in this economy, so wait if you want. I would actually wait until the frame rate bug is fixed because some people are extremely sensitive to lower frame rates. Now, I might sound crazy, but I think Borderlands 4 is getting unfairly crapped on because the people behind the game, Randy, and not so much about how bad the issues really are. If you think I sound like I'm being a fanboy or a shield, I'm not, and I'm gonna prove it to you. If you played and loved any of these games I'm showing on the screen, then you've played and loved games with far worse problems than the ones in Borderlands 4. Again, I'm not excusing any of this, but I played beloved games that are still buggy to this day that people have no problem praising and recommending. So it's a little weird that Borderlands 4 is getting trash when it doesn't have that many issues in comparison. Bugs aside, Borderlands 4 on PS5 looks great, but Unreal Engine 5 is kicking its butt. It could be the new open world, dynamic events, and large number of enemies and effects going off at once that explains this game's lower resolution. It doesn't look horrible, but if you play Borderlands 3 on your PS5, you can clearly see that this game is not 4K or even 1080p. I could tell the game isn't as clear as most games are, but never did I think it was ugly or blurry. Just not as sharp as I'm used to. My thoughts on the frame rate issues are this. I think that problem will get fixed quicker than others because I really believe that might be a memory leak because I'm telling you, in my experience, I have played the game maintaining 60 to 50 frames per second, which is its target, for hours on end without the game ever dropping, even in the late game. It was only one time that I can remember that the frame rate just dropped and I was like, I'm playing at 30 now. This is not right. If you want the highest of resolutions in FPS, then we all know where you need to go. But on the base PS5, I was fine with the performance I got, outside of the bugs. Getting off bugs, if we talk about the visuals alone, the only downgrade to the presentation that really stinks here are the gun designs. I guess in an attempt to make Borderlands less wacky, guns look less cool and more like real guns, I guess. It reminds me of the first game's simple gun design, but this is one area I wish they wouldn't have changed. I wasn't given a free copy of Borderlands 4. As a paying customer, I could say that I don't like any of the issues I ran into. But overall, I don't regret buying the game day one. I loved every Borderlands game. You don't count. And this is another great one added to the collection. New open world design, streamlined upgrade and RPG system that does not take away from its complexity. A rebalancing of guns that makes more of the weapon pool viable for combat. More bosses than ever, and the bosses have better AI than they ever did before. A mature take on storytelling that affects both the main missions and the side missions, giving Borderlands 4 room to have matured and grown with its player base, but it still keeps what it used to be. It's not fully there yet, but that's because they want to keep some of the silliness there, and now it's actually funny this time around instead of being juvenile. With all the great improvements to Borderlands, I still think Borderlands 4 could have used a bit more time in the oven. The bugs and performance issues are here, and they shouldn't be swept under the rug just because underneath it all, this is still an amazing game. I had a great time with Borderlands 4. Or really, I should be saying I'm having a great time with Borderlands 4 because guess what? I'm not done playing. Finishing up side missions, starting a new character, and getting more powerful loot to take on even harder bosses is what's next for me. What we have here is a common case of a delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is bad forever. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Borderlands 4 is a bad game, but it's more like an undercooked cookie. If they would have just left it in the oven, it would have been perfect. It still tastes good, and you'll even eat it. But you just know it would have been better if they would have just waited.
Could it be? My savior? My chosen hero sent from the starry beyond?